Howdy y'all, it's Trent Knox, back at it with another live stream of the Trent Knox Show. Today's topic is live your truth. Yeah, what does that mean? There's a lot that goes into that, and it's a meme right now to say live your truth. I can't even remember where the origins are. We could look it up, but honestly, it doesn't matter because it's being used by tons of people who don't know the etymology of the statement or the question or the pursuit. But living your truth, what does it mean? I was on a call yesterday with a subscriber, viewer, follower, and we got into it in regards to what that actually means, because a lot of creators and just people in general who end up being a meme or a piece of content go viral. I think the one that's most popular right now is the Hawk Tua girl. I mean, she's on a press run right now. She's on a world tour of podcasts, going out there telling folks who she is and basically clearing up any misconceptions about the person that she is. And I can't remember her name off the top of my head now. I think it's like Hannah or something like that. It's interesting because her social media, isn't Hawk Tua. So if you go and search for it, you're not going to get her handle or her pseudonym as Hawk Tua. And there was some controversy in that as well with the Indigenous Americans, the First Peoples in Canada, the Native Americans. There was some controversy in regards to using that name on her. So their truth and her truth are different. They're not the same. And when it comes to content creation, a lot of creators' truths are not aligned. And something that was said to me by a former employer is everything they've ever taught you up until this day has been a lie. And that really, shocked me at the time, because I felt like when I was 22, 23 years old, 24 years old, whatever it was, that there was a quest line of sorts for all my gaming folks out there, a roadmap. There was a standard in which people all kind of had a mutually shared understanding of the world. I was under the impression that Americans in America shared the same identity. And I think nowadays that's even less true. I think nowadays there's a ton of division, but back then, 2018, 2019, it wasn't that bad. It was tough, don't get me wrong. Social media and everything was still kind of, there was some resistance to it. I remember someone who was part of the community of Austin Live and Local didn't even have social media, and they were hanging out. I mean, they had an Instagram, but they didn't have a Facebook, something like that. It was their truth. They believed that the anonymity of some platforms provided them a way to to be themselves in a different way. They didn't have to dox themselves to be on social media. Could have been X, or formerly Twitter, or Twitter at the time. I can't remember what it was, but they were on it, but they weren't themselves in the truest sense to me, right? So I live the truth that who I am online, I am both the pseudonym and I am the government name that I was given by my mother, by my parents when I was born. And so there's that truth there that I hold on to in a sense of it being true, you know. But I think a lot of people, they struggle with identity right now. And even more so than I remember growing up. I just don't remember people struggling so much with their gender, struggling so much with their culture, struggling so much just to exist. You know, there are a lot of people out there that almost, I don't want to say want to self-delete, but they want to disconnect from the social norms, and they want social norms that are different, and it's hard to even engage with them to get an idea or a bigger picture on what that is. What are those different social norms? What is that truth that they want to live? You know, this person that I was on a call with yesterday, they want a more stable, a more clear picture of what it means to have common sense. They look at what people are doing to their bodies. They look at what people are doing on social media, and they have a differing opinion on what is appropriate and what is inappropriate in context to professionalism, but also in context into just appropriate behavior individually. And you know, I kind of dug back in. I played devil's advocate in some aspects to say, like, I completely understand the traditional and the norms and the conservative, and a lot of people would argue that I'm on that side of truth, where I'm just a lot of times trying to pose both positions and trying to figure out if I'm more aligned with them in than I am the other way. And I know some people might criticize me for being a both sideser or a centrist in that way, but I'm just, you know, doing my best to figure out if I understand where they're coming from. I think that people tend not to do that with me. They have their own biases and their own dialogue trees, and they make assumptions, and they don't ask the right questions or ask questions at all. It's important to ask questions. Some people are offended by questions, and that's really ridiculous in my opinion. So that's a truth that I have, is if you're offended by this title of live your truth question mark, then you're the type of person, the type of personality that I'm talking to. That's the person I'm trying to reach, in a sense. But at the same point in time, you know, I feel internally that I am trying to reach like-minded people as well, but are people who are just questioning their own truth, and trying to discover, have they been misled? Have they been given misinformation, malinformation, or disinformation? If these things, I've been told things recently, and I even had a conversation about a topic that I'll talk about, and I won't go too much detail, but there's a popular franchise that a fan theory, or maybe not, there's always that question mark of, is it true? Is it real? About a popular franchise that I had said I had introduced the idea in the wrong way. I should have led with the question of, what do you think about this popular franchise theory or speculation? Because speculation insinuates that there's more to the theory than it just being popular to talk about. When I should have led with a question. I should have led with a question in that regard. And said, hey, look, I heard this. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's really interesting. What do you think about X, Y, and Z? So yeah, it's a matter of framing the truth, of course. How do we frame the truth? Whose truth are we amplifying? I mean, yesterday Aiden Ross had Donald Trump on a live stream that it's historical, but it's also like a lot of reasons why it's discredited. And unfortunately, in America, these truths that we hold to be so evident, I might have just said that wrong, so correct me in the comments if I was wrong, are being challenged. They're just challenging the Constitution. There are a lot of platforms out there that don't prioritize the freedom of speech in the truest sense. They're more defensive of microaggressions than legitimate physical aggressions. When it comes to something happening to someone off their platform, they disassociate. They act like they don't know. They don't provide the information that they should provide for any investigation by the actual authorities. And so, there's a lot of reasons to discredit this Aiden Ross, Donald Trump stream. It did seem like Donald Trump doesn't know any better, but, he goes on there to promote Truth Social, and then he goes and then says that TikTok, he's going to save TikTok. And it's like, some of these ideas, we need people who have a better perspective as Americans, what Americans would want to see in the truest sense of a virtual town hall, of a place that does represent Americans in the sense that every American has a vote in the digital version of the United States of America, and that what happens online is somewhat parallel and perpendicular to, congruent with, what is happening offline in the diaspora of Americana in that way. Because American identity, American truth is very, very messy right now. We could just call it messy. I grew up in a world where independence was encouraged, absolutely. You know, individuals could form tribes, and we'll talk about that on another live stream, with people that were both like-minded and similar-minded, and also had different perspectives. My identity, and this is where I kind of like, okay, I get it. I'm also on the side of progress in a sense. Is a kid that grew up in a military family, didn't necessarily have the what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say popular, but no. The common, I would say the most common experience as a military child. My experience was somewhat growing up on military bases as a young child, and then, as in my teens and into my young adult time, we lived off base. And so I was integrated more than the average military kid into everyday society. But that's changed drastically. The military in the United States has been culturally captured just as equally as civilian culture. So, kids that are growing up on base their entire life have, like, what it looks like to me, the statistics and analytics looks like to me is they're very different than kids that grow up in civilian society culture. And they exist on the spectrum in different ways because they don't have this is changing. They don't have the same cultural background as the everyday American, because in the base culture, the engagement with first generation Americans is less than in civilian culture. There's not as much of an influence of alternative truths in that capacity. That's changing. Don't get me wrong. They're changing the name of the bases. They're making the military less macro aggressive. They are encouraging intellectual thinking, and they're encouraging people to think before they act in the military now, instead of aggressively using language to brainwash them into making poor decisions, and making it so that they can't think on their own, and that they are, because we live in a digital age where there's not enough time for there's just not enough time to live under the guise of someone else who is also been misled to believe something that's not true, to guide you in a direction in which you're going to be growing in a positive direction. So we're really being challenged in a lot of ways as the world is being challenged. The norms of society are evolving with technology. And I say that word, and then it's like, yeah, there are cultures that don't believe in the science behind how we as a species and humans got to where we're at today. And you say that, and then people will disconnect. They only want to be a follower, and they want to get the easy guide to live their lives. And there's really no end-all be-all easy guide to navigating the world right now. A lot of people right now, their truth is whatever happens on X, whatever happens on YouTube, whatever happens on Facebook. That's their truth, and almost their Bible to a degree, because they know if they do this or they do that, they could potentially get their account banned, and that could impact their livelihood. It could create a situation where they're not able to put food on the table and feed their families, that they could lose their house. There are a lot of consequences for doing wrong think right now. So it's completely it's understandable why people don't even live their truth. They don't live their truth because they fear the consequences of the authorities' reaction, because they see on they see in their feed of information where authorities overreach and go beyond the rule book, their own terms of service, and wrongfully treat people unfairly and not according to the book, right? And I mean, for a long period of time, and this was in the conversation that I had with this other creator, was that the guidelines were the Bible in the Middle Ages, and the the British Empire, you didn't align with those things, or even the Roman Empire for that matter. You didn't align with these thought processes. You were subject to the death penalty. If not that, you definitely were ostracized, and you couldn't engage with society. And even that was true up until the internet, really, in the American South. Maybe less so in the American North, or West, but definitely in the American South. I mean, you weren't a part of the church culture, then you weren't like involved in anything. Really, everyone was involved in some church activity, something like that. But the internet cracked that egg open, and things of that nature are less prevalent today than they have probably ever been. But at the same time, we see the all-time high attendance. But people are different. People aren't congregating in the same way that they used to. Now it's people staying in their homes, not going out, choosing to congregate in their online communities. Good example is virtual reality. So, living your truth, right? I think that the best thing to do when it comes to living your truth is, I will just say, I think asking questions is a good thing. I don't think being dismissive and being hostile to other people's perspective is a good thing. I think it's a bad thing. And I think that in order to discover your truth, you need to try a lot of different things, and be vocal about the things that maybe people are trying to enforce on you that you don't agree with them. You just do your best to engage in a sensible, practical, and logical sense. All right. Once again, this is Trent Knox. This is the Trent Knox Show live. Trent Knox and all the things. And until the next one, I hope you have a great day, wherever it is.